Welcome back, Pete.
Good to be here. Didn't really drink the wine though this time. What happened?
Sorry, I bought the shark head though. I thought that would make up
Yeah, we've
for
got a
it.
shark head and a very old video game, so it's very nostalgic actually.
If I had $1 for every time someone told me AI could do it, I could probably outsource this podcasting gig to ChatGPT, my AI counterpart.
How do you know it's not?
Oh, that just freaked me out for a moment. And still no robot assistant to do my expenses for me. So I thought today we would talk about generative AI. It's a hot topic. Hype, hope, happening, or is it here to stay?
All of them? All
It can be
four
all of
A's?
them.
I think
Okay,
it
talk
is.
me through it.
How are we going to do that? One at a time?
Well, spoiler alert, it's certainly not going anywhere, but it's not magic.
Well, maybe we start with the hype. That's the first one, isn't it? So, like any big new piece of technology that we've ever seen, we're fortunate to have seen big 3 changes between the internet, the iPhone. Is this the next iPhone moment? Well, the reality is what we thought it might do and what it'll end up doing probably a long way apart. So there's a lot of hype around what it might do. There's a lot of misconceptions about what it might do. There's a lot of fear about what that looks like as well at the moment. But
it's certainly the number one topic in the boardroom.
Well, it's a topic everywhere. It's a topic at home with our kids. It's a topic at home at work. So it's everywhere. Like you can't avoid that conversation at the moment. I think you think about different events and the sort of, like this podcast, is it real or is it not real? Because, is it fake being generated?
Oh,
like,
it's very real.
This is very real.
My AI counterpart would not make as many mistakes as I do.
No.
I'm going to have a much better voice for podcasting.
Yeah, if you can fix that, that'd be good, actually.
My voice.
Not mine. So, yeah. So, look, so the hype side, absolutely. There's lots of ideas of what it is, and I think we're all going through that phase at the moment, and there are always going to be people at different ends of that spectrum about what it can and what it can't do. But I think there's some really exciting use cases where people are actually getting there and making a real difference with the technology, both at a very personal level and a very human level.
I think part of the challenge with the hype is every vendor likes to slap the word AI on everything they do. And it's just creating this misconception. Like, how many are actually using the technology in a way that it drives productivity benefit for people or makes life easier, not harder?
Yeah, but I think we use AI in this general term because there's lots of different versions of it. Like, we started talking about GenAI, which is around, the ability for natural language, its ability for understanding, its ability to generate code or to generate summaries. But when you think about AI, well, that's not what we started with. We started with, maybe what machine learning, what's next best action. So understanding the different types of, so a lot of conversations we have with people is actually going, there's a spectrum here we need to work through. And different AIs is the right thing for different parts of the problems we're solving for. It's not one AI that fixes everything. We're not there.
So we know there's hype, but I think there's definitely hope.
Certainly, yeah.
And we certainly see there's a lot of benefit in, and whichever type of AI you're looking at, there is a lot of upside into the way in which you can apply it to an organization and make lives easier. We see so much potential in just taking away some of the mundane work that none of us wake up in the morning and think, oh, hey, I want to go and fill out a form, or I want to go and, write up resolution notes. Yawn. Whoever wants to, no one comes out of uni thinking that's what they want to spend their time doing. So there's definitely a lot of potential for AI to take away the jobs we never wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, look, and we've seen that with each big technology change. Those jobs have ultimately changed, but and this fear thing that is going to take away jobs. Look, there will be jobs that will change, but ultimately we've always generated more jobs on the back of that. The ability is just trying to understand what that potential looks like, But I think you're right. Like, I didn't come into the office thinking, actually, I want to spend hours and hours writing, summary notes from a conversation. Now, out of, even simple meetings now, the ability to have a co-pilot or something out of Zoom or any one of those technologies basically generate a summary and generate all of the actions and then be able to just send that on to everybody and everyone agree. But you still got to read it. Like, it does get things wrong or misinterprets what I say. So the ability to be able to have that, but that's, remember what we used to do in pen and paper? We used to write all that down. Then we'd have to transcribe it into email. Then we have to get 10 other people to read it to make sure that was an accurate version of what was said. Now we've got an actual transcribed version that we can play out and capture all of those things.
And I feel like even though that's only been in the market for less than a year, people now use it without thinking. Like, how many meetings do we attend where we're not using AI to transcribe on our behalf?
Yeah. Well, look, and it was not. I think people are still finding ways to work out. Oh, actually, I should try. It shouldn't be a oh, I did all that work. Oh, I wonder what. It should be the first thing should have been like, actually, how am I using? Which AI tool could I use to help me accelerate what I'm about to go and do? That ability to actually, how long does it take to read 10 different documents to build out a summary? Now I can ask an AI capability to actually do that summary for me and give me the points and understand it. You don't take away from the learning. I think we see this with our kids. It's great to help us accelerate our own learning to catch back up and remember the things we forgot from when we were students. But it helps them just take that anxiety out of the learning process that they need to go through and they go, oh, right. Okay. Because you can ask it to say, well, show me the steps, break it down for me. So you could cheat, but ultimately that's not going to get you to the outcome of how do you understand?
So let's focus specifically on generative AI. And I think most people listening to this podcast have probably played around with ChatGPT. So they would be familiar with how they can use it for fun or to help them, with their day job or to help them prepare for high school exams and help their teenagers get through that. How is that playing out in the world of enterprise?
Yeah. Well, the organizations which are embracing the opportunity and really leaving it to the people, what they're finding is you've got to choose one or two technologies, put the guardrails around it because you don't want your IP being leaked out. So there's this, I think in podcast one we spoke about, I want to go really, really fast, but really, really safely. So how do you choose a technology and go actually, and then give it to the people? Like we're not going to know all of the use cases yet. There are some obvious ones for anyone behind a service desk, whether it's an IT, HR, or customer, the ability at the end of that call to generate a knowledge article, to generate a summary. But the other tasks sitting in people's jobs and going, actually, well, how could I enable that capability, help people build a presentation for a customer meeting or generate, research material before you go and talk to a customer? So we spend a lot of time talking to customers and, I can certainly vouch for the acceleration, the ability to pull lots of different information together and go, actually, here's not so much the talk track, but here's what this organization is focused on. Here's what the people are focused on. So how do we use those? So I think for me, it's about put it in the hands of the people.
Yeah, I think I love this idea of go fast, but do it safely. I love the concept around create a safe environment to get started. I think the way that we've seen organizations adapt generative AI, in our case, using Now Assist on the ServiceNow platform, has always been around where are the capabilities that we're using the platform today, where we have confidence that we can test out technology that is not going to expose us to an unnecessary amount of risk, is based on use cases that we use extensively that have good quality data behind it, so it actually makes sense. For a lot of them, it sounds like a simple task, like let me use generative AI to write up my case resolution notes. Well, that sounds simple, but the vast majority of service desk agents don't write up resolution notes. They just write, resolved or complete and close it off. And when you don't have that quality of information about what's been, going on with outages or incidents in your organization, how can you then use that knowledge to prevent them from happening in future? So these simple use cases like write up my resolution notes, it will be a game changer for a lot of companies. Yeah. The other one I love, which I think really just brings the people element to it, a customer was talking me through how they're using it to write up incident reports after an incident. So these are reports that have to go to the executive around what happened, what the impact was, and how it was fixed, and how we're preventing it from happening in the future. That would take an employee hours to go through, all the problem incidents, write up how they fixed it, put it in words that an executive can actually understand, because you can't put techie speak in that. Those hours are often late at night, early morning, on the weekends, because guess what? Incidents don't always happen 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So there's a really human element around the benefit that this is going to bring to companies. Because if you can save that employee, 3 hours on Saturday so they don't have to write up this report and they can go and watch their kid play basketball or get back to doing the gardening, like those are we often talk about the moments that matter. For me, those are the moments that matter, where technology has actually it hasn't just made someone's life easier and made them more productive. It's actually created a better positive experience for them related to the workplace.
Yeah, look, that point, which is that ability, we have this conversation a lot with the executives going, but I don't have the data. You can actually use the generative capability to help you accelerate that change. You don't have to go back and spend 3 years trying to build knowledge articles. Every time you have an incident, every time you have a summary, every time something occurs, you can actually have the AI start to build out that content. And even better, you can actually make sure that content stays relevant and stays live, because you can build you can use the agentic capability to actually test, hey, when was this last updated? Hey, that policy might have changed. So I think you're right. Like, that ability now to accelerate that curve is completely different to what we've seen in the past. And it's helping people think about those use cases. And, and for me, that human element, that part where I can go and, spend some more time in the garden, or go see my son dance, or watch your daughter play basketball. I think that's the stuff that's really important to people.
And I think even though now we may be focusing on some of those similar use cases, we can see where this is headed. Imagine the point at which someone who's responsible for monitoring a risk control at a bank can use generative AI to help them understand a new regulatory policy that's come out, or a new compliance that they have to, keep up to date with. Being able to use just a conversation to ask questions about what that policy is, how's it going to impact my business unit, and what changes do I need to make to my processes to comply with it? It's just going to not only speed up that process, but let's face it, not all of us are capable of reading deep regulatory documents and understanding what the hell they're talking about. Yeah. So for me, I may actually understand it.
Correct. Well, but I think, to that point, is then that ability to, the other way we think about it is you're a bit like having this silent collaborator in your pocket. So, you and I having a conversation, we always know we get a better outcome when we sit down and debate topics. When you don't have that somebody around, you've now got this capability where you can have this sort of almost a dialogue, and we talk about prompting, but effectively it's just asking questions. The more questions, and you spoke about, hey, I need to change this summary and take the technology talk out of it for an executive group. Well, it can do that. Right? You still got to read it, right? But you don't have to spend the hours trying to do all the extra piece of work to actually remove that complexity, to make it simple for people to understand.
It's interesting that you bring up prompting, because I've been in quite a few boardroom conversations where people have raised their concern that we have to teach people how to prompt.
Did you
generative AI,
teach your daughters how to prompt?
LLM. Well, and this is my point that I make to them. I'm like, why do we feel like we need to teach people how to talk to a computer? We have spent the last 40 years trying to train ourselves to talk to computers in a way that computer understand. Generative AI has finally made it possible that the computer understands the way humans talk. So let's just talk to it in a very human way and let it work out the rest.
Yeah. So encourage the experimentation, encourage asking the questions. That's what we really ultimately trying to do. Like, virtual agents, we got that. If you got the words wrong and they weren't trained,
they were kind of painful.
They're painful, like, to be fair. So, whereas that's the point. The point of the generative part and the natural language component is that simple ability to be able to ask a question, and it will respond. Right?
And there are no stupid questions. It doesn't judge.
It doesn't judge me. No, so I can ask it whatever I like.
I've definitely put that to the test with the study prep. Explain how this math question works, please.
Yeah, well, there's certain math questions. I think we found the limits recently. So we found different AIs for different solutions too. That's the other thing too.
So what are some of the common pitfalls that you're seeing in people adopting generative AI tools like Now Assist?
Well, again, it's a bit like text searching for a problem to go and solve. I think you've got to put, this one is when we don't just go out there with this idea of, hey, what are all the immediate benefits and how am I going to remove 55 jobs out of my call center? I think first thing is we've got to understand where it's going to have an impact in my organization. So put the technology in the hands of the people, allow them to experiment, allow them to start honing and finding out where the use cases are. So start with the use case. Don't start with the model. All right. And then you can start to think about, how do I start to measure the impact? So how much time am I saving? Well, how much are we increasing customer service empathy by? Because the fact we can actually spend more time in the deep conversations because we're not spending time in these task-driven exercises that we don't need to anymore. I think, and encourage a level of experimentation. There's no, you said there was no silly questions. It doesn't judge. Well, exactly right. So allow people the freedom to ask that.
I think another common pitfall is people approach this from let's build our own language model. Let's build our own AI platform. Let's go and invest tens of millions of dollars in building something. And what we've seen across the industry is those general purpose language models are far more likely to hallucinate and just make crap up. Whereas when you go down the path of leveraging something that is domain specific, that, has been already pre-trained based on context of what it is you're going to be asking it to do, your ability to get to value faster, your ability to get answers that actually have meaning, and I think more importantly, are tied into whether it's a platform or a capability that allows you to then take action from it. Like, you talk about getting to outcomes faster. Let's take the path of least resistance. If a technology vendor has done all the work to train the capability to write resolution notes or to make a recommendation, take advantage of that. Put it to work for your organization. Do the 20% that you need to do to personalize it for, your style of banking or the telco market, that you're serving. But take every advantage you can have to get to value faster, because this technology is moving at such a fast pace. Anyone that wants to go and build their own system to do this is probably going to find a lot of tech debt and sunk cost.
Yeah, I think there are different models for different outcomes in my mind. So, but you're right, rely on your big technology partners that have got these capabilities. They're putting the investment in because they know it's going to disrupt the way we work. We certainly see that here at ServiceNow and what we're doing. Where I think organizations might invest in their own models is where they have strategic advantage, whereas it is different to that organization, how they compete in the market. And you don't want that in a general purpose model that's available. So I think those are the areas where, but that's not you starting from ground up trying to build a whole natural language model. You're never going to do that at the scale of the other organizations that are actually currently doing that.
I think the other big pitfall is cultural resistance. Like, we spoke about this on a different podcast, on another episode, but you have to bring people on the journey. There is so much fear that people have around, is my job not going to exist? Am I going to lose my job? If AI gets good enough to do it for me. The reality is we're going to be AI augmented, not AI replaced. Generative AI can take away a lot of those tasks that you don't want to do on a daily basis, but it can't replace humans. It can't take humans out of the loop. And we need to make sure that our employees understand that, so that they see the benefit of this change, that they don't feel like the change is happening to them. They feel like they have some control over the way in which the change is going to impact them.
Yeah, and I think that what's going to happen when we free up this capacity in the organization, but I haven't found an organization that I talk to, I'm sure you're the same, which is, hey, we don't have enough people to do all the work we want to do. So how are we using that capacity to start tackling the other challenges that we've had? You've got great, smart people who've had organizational knowledge for years. Now we're arming them with a whole new tool set to basically go and solve problems that we weren't able to solve. And I think that's the really exciting opportunity about how we actually allow people to take this technology and start solving some of the other problems and innovation concepts that we haven't had the capacity to do because we're tied up in boring note-taking exercises and sending emails and having to spend hours creating them because it's going to a certain audience.
Well, and isn't that the key? Like, if you're a company that expects to grow, like if you
genuinely
believe you're going to be successful and you're going to grow your market, or you're going to, invent new products, then you want to create capacity for scale. You don't want to keep throwing people at the problem.
You want to be able to, if you can achieve the levels of automation, then your organization can grow based on what you're doing and still capture new revenue opportunities within the market. That's really exciting in my terms.
So what do you think the signs are that someone's doing it the right way?
Well, that's a tough one to throw out here. So we were at a dinner the other night, and I think someone captured it pretty well, which was, if you haven't started, you're already behind. All right. So you just,
where have you been?
Yeah, correct. Like, where have you?
It's been a great holiday.
Yeah, correct. I did have a nice holiday actually. But ultimately, that is true. This is not something you sit on the sidelines. This train is going way too fast, and if you gets too fast, your ability to grab it will be gone. All right.
Well, if you're standing on the station, it looks like it's going a lot faster than if you're on the train.
Correct. Yeah.
Moving with it.
Yeah. So get on the train. That's step number one, I think, is all right. For me, where I'm seeing the real value in organizations is they are allowing their people to experiment. They're allowing people to get out there and play with it and allowing a safe place for people to come up with the ideas and the innovation. And where they can, they're allowing their organization across the enterprise to access these tools. So whether it's, we did the same thing with even our developers with the ServiceNow. We gave them different set of tools. We weren't sure which one the right ones to help them accelerate their development. So we gave
them options.
We gave them options, and then we worked it out from there. And so I think it's how do you take those sort of ideas and think about it as well?
I think for me, it's also when you see people focusing on outcome-driven use cases and not placing these massive bets.
Yeah.
And looking for fast time to outcome. You're not spending 12 to 18 months rolling out technology that is going to be so outdated by the time you finish.
Yep.
You're focused on what are we doing today and how can we augment that and do it better, faster, smarter. I think the other big sign for me is, and you speak about this all the time, is making sure that we've got the guardrails in place, give them the freedom to play, but hey, these are the things you're allowed to do. These are the things you're not allowed to do. Not just to protect the organization, but to protect the people.
Like we have simple things that we know if you pop up to go use ChatGPT, it comes up with our policy around safe usage and what that looks like and all those things. And a lot of organizations are doing that well, but don't allow that to be the handbrake. All right. It can't just be the thing of, hey, don't do anything, because we see this in our own personal lives. The expectation is the same as always been in technology. I'm using the stuff at home. I expect to be able to come to work. And you've got a modern workforce or younger workforce coming in, and they're going to have the same expectations. We see it with our kids today. So,
and I also love that we're putting the guardrails into the technology. So it's such a small thing, but the Now Assist Guardian that protects people from putting in really stupid prompts or really nefarious prompts or accidentally sharing customer data and sending that off to an AI model. Yeah. I love that we've put those safeguards into the technology itself.
But we didn't have those day one either. So I think that's the other big thing is there's just that part that we're adapting as evolving and going, actually, here's how we can make it easier for people to evolve and use and test and learn and try this technology within a safe space. And that's the beauty of the platform, which is we know we can actually manage that risk for you. We can control where your data is going. And now we're able to control the sensitivity of the data being transported as well. So I think that's a big thing.
The other sign that people are doing it right is when employees turn around and say, this is actually making my life easier. Like, isn't that just such an simple test? Because if you're putting all this work into rolling out Generative AI and your employees are sitting there going, yeah, I don't use it because it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Well, you've missed the boat. You've not chosen the right use cases. You've not focused on outcomes. You've just implemented technology for technology's sake.
Yeah, back to, hey, I can buy technology, but I can't buy transformation. So
absolutely. So generative AI, I feel like we're shifting from co-pilots onto autonomous agents. Mm-hmm. That's obviously now a real focus for the market. Yep. So yes, generative AI is happening and it's here to stay, but I think it's become the wedge into something that's going to add incredible value to an organization where we're not just interacting with technology using natural language, but technology is helping us make recommendations, make decisions on our behalf when those decisions are not risky or critical to the business, and then going off and taking action.
Yeah, and I think, I love that part, which is allowing it to make the decisions, but within the framework and a set of guardrails about, it's a bit like when we used to ask for approval to spend money. I had a certain delegation level, but if I wanted to spend $20 more, I had to go and ask somebody else to do that. It's the same thing. So I think we're going to see those AIs, we're going to see these agents evolve into that space. And I think, do we really understand the impact? No, but it's exciting to play with at the moment. It's exciting to see some of the, that's the beauty about our roles. We get to talk to a lot of different customers and hear some of the stories about the things they're doing and go, hey, this sort of control tower, this ability to see what's happening in my organization, and have some governance and compliance and risk around it. That's great, because now you're putting those further guardrails around it so people can get the transparency. And I think a lot of it is, how do we give people that transparency?
It feels like governance is actually going to become the differentiator here. Yeah. Because when you have the governance in place, number one, you're not going to do something really stupid and end up in the papers. But number two, with governance, you actually build trust with people. And as we've talked about previously, when people trust the change, when they trust the technology, when they trust why we're doing something, you're far more likely to have success.
Yeah, look, and I think that we've seen mistakes. Like, you only have to do a quick Google search or a ChatGPT.
Well, there's been some doozies.
Oh, there's some great ones.
I still use mistakes from 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for those, like, we're going to see them, but the ability to have the transparency, the understanding, capture it, And that's why the sort of the big part of what we talk about is the human in the loop. So we're not removing that person. That person is still the gatekeeper of, hey, yes, that's the right thing, and I'm going to allow it to do. And once you've, allowing people to work hand in hand as they build up these capabilities, and especially these agents, and get the confidence the agent is doing the right things often enough to the quality level, and then letting it go, that's the way you build trust.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the future is human-led, but AI augmented.
Totally. We were talking about like these collaborators in your pocket. Like it's super exciting as we prepare for things to go. Actually, almost my first point is, well, which AI capability do I have in my back pocket that I can use to help me accelerate what I'm doing? Because we are starved of time.
Would it be fair to say that the winners in this game will not be the ones with the flashiest tools? They'll be the ones with trustworthy AI.
Trustworthy AI and the fact that where they've allowed their people and the people are feeling that benefit and they're excited about what's happening to it.
Final thoughts?
Well, we started with what? Hype,
hope happening
here to stay. So, look, so it is. This technology is not going away. All right, we can't put the genie back in the bottle. This one is definitely escape. And so, my thoughts are, look, it is like we both are techie people, so we're a little bit
kind of
biased. We're a bit nerdy, and so we're a little bit more excited maybe than the average people. But I think we both seen the impact it's having in our personal lives. The ability, we're learning stuff we forgot at school again, but we've got a tool that we can help us, but we're also seeing the real impact in the workplace. And I think for me, like I've had this chat with someone, and it was in the medical profession when they're talking, and there's this really human story where you're talking about non-verbal people with generative AI being able to, now to transverse and talk with doctors so they can understand the pain or what they're feeling. Like that is material different. We're enabling a whole other capability in people. And I think when I think about those stories, that gets me past some of the negative things that, when people talk about, is it this the Terminator? Well, we are so far away from that. But being able to do these sort of things, it's really human element. And so when I think about the people impact this technology can have, yeah. But what about you, Kat?
I'm just encouraging people to get on the train.
Yeah.
Start small, measure the impact, and bring people on the journey. Because at the end of the day, the change is either going to happen to you, or you can be a driver of the change and making sure it's done in the right way.
Yeah. You don't want to be a late follower in this one.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Pete.
Yeah, lovely to see you. See you next time.